What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to go through my 10 must-add waiver wire pickups for Week 3. These guys are all going to be under 50% owned in ESPN leagues, so at least half of you guys gain something from this video. We're going to talk about the running backs up top, the pass catchers on the back end. Now, if you guys want something a little bit more in-depth, a little more precise, I release an article every week on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart, where I go through the top 10 to 15 at each position, and I tell you guys exactly how much fab I would be bidding on each of these players. So if you want a little bit more help in the fab side of things, on the waiver side of things, check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart. On top of that article coming out every Tuesday, I have my rest of season rankings that come out every Wednesday, weekly rankings every Thursday, and then Sunday I do a patron-only live stream where we talk through start sits, when we have all the data, the late game inactives, the injuries, all of that good stuff. So if any of that sounds good to you, check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart. Before we waste any time, let's get straight into this video. If you enjoyed, make sure down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm critical. My nitty bag.
Now, with these waiver videos, I like to break it up into two types of waiver ads. You have your priority ads, which are guys you want to unload like 15% or more of your budget on. And then you have just your normal ads, guys that you kind of just want to sneak through, either a $1 bid or somebody you can just sort of grab off waivers after everything rolls through. And today we only have one priority ad who's right on the fringe. I would call him like a 10 to 15% guy, maybe 20% if you're feeling, absolutely down bad at running back. But we have Raheem Mostert here. And he saw a really big role increase where he actually ends up out-snapping Chase Edmonds. Now, this is a really cool sort of pie chart, I guess an extension of the utilization report on PFF, but it breaks down sort of running back usage here. And the lime green is Raheem Mostert, the blue is Edmonds. Raheem Mostert out-snapped him 35 to 32. He played a majority of the early down stuff. He had all of the goal line work. And then, of course, Edmonds had all of the 2-minute drill, most of the third down stuff. So he is the pass-catching back. Raheem Mostert's the grinder. And usually we're not really all that interested in the between-the-tackles grinders. But if this offense is going to be fireworks every week, and Mike McDaniel's going to come out here and put up, 25-plus every week, and this is going to be a top 5 to 10 scoring offense, that's an interesting role where Mostert out-touched Chase Edmonds 14 to 8 this week. And if he is that primary goal line back and the primary grinder on a top 5 to 10 scoring team, that's pretty interesting. Now, he only put up 10.9 points this week, but I think for the rest of the season, he's super interesting. I would have him in the low-end RB3 range where, again, if you're down bad, have a 0 RB team, a hero RB team, I think that he is someone you can stream at RB2 probably as soon as next week. He's someone you can kind of just get, your 10, 11, 12 points from. Maybe he rips off a long run. He's really interesting. If you're lacking a lot of RB2 firepower, I think he's somebody you can almost plug in right away. Now, that brings us to just our normal ads, just guys that I wouldn't spend a crazy amount of my fab on, but are interesting. Darrel Williams, Benjamin here. They're fun, speculative ads because we have James Conner, who got hurt. Seems like he should be missing time. Here's the issue. These guys would be priority ads, but it doesn't seem like James Conner is going to be out for that long. This is a injury insight from fantasypoints.com from Edwin Porras. Per Ian Rappaport, Conner's ankle is not considered serious, and there's no mention from Rap Sheet about the injury being a high ankle sprain. Monitor Conner's practice status this week, as it's never a good thing to miss a massive chunk of a game. If active in week 3, he'll be highly volatile. So it seems like he's a week-to-week guy. He might even play next week. With that being the case, right, this isn't a long-term injury. If James Conner was out like 8 weeks, both of these guys would probably be 15% plus fab bids. But if Conner isn't going to be injured long-term, they're just kind of speculative ads to really your only upside there is maybe Conner comes back and he re-injures himself in week 3, and then you have 5 to 6 weeks of a runway for one of these running backs. But the other issue is that we don't really know who is ahead. Last week, I think I even had a takeaway where I said Benjamin was the clear handcuff. He had all of the touches in garbage time versus the Chiefs in week 1. And then they came out here yesterday, and this is a great tweet from Dwayne McFarland where he breaks up the splits after Conner's injury. Snaps are 56 to 48%. Attempts are 47 to 35%. Routes are 48 to 41%. So Williams has a slight leg up on Benjamin, but it's super slight. It's like a 55-45 split. it's hard to take any concrete takeaways from this backfield at this point, but even if Connor is gone, it's going to be tough because you have Kyler Murray stealing away rush attempts. This is a team that hasn't really proven to be that great. Like, I know that they came back, but they still haven't, I guess they haven't had a lead until maybe literally that last drive in overtime. I don't know. Somebody stat check me on that. But regardless, it's going to be tough for one of these guys to really emerge here. So I think the best case scenario is you sneak one onto your roster for really cheap. You see what happens this week. If Connor, the best case scenario for you, if let's say you sneak Eno Benjamin onto your team, James Conner gets hurt, Eno Benjamin reverts back to the clear RB2 he was in week 1, and then boom, you have a nice handcuff for like the next 5 to 6 weeks. Or James Conner comes out here, looks great, healthy, you drop one of them the following week. So again, those guys aren't priority ads to me. I don't know if anybody came out here on YouTube or any of these articles or anything before James Conner sort of got news that it wasn't going to be a long-term injury, but I wouldn't go crazy on Eno Benjamin or Darrel Williams. I will say I probably prefer Darrel Williams ever so slightly just because he was the favored guy yesterday in a game that they won. Then we have a last-second ad here. We are recording this at 7:05 p.m. This report came out at 6:30 p.m. I wrote a big thing on Tyrion Davis-Price. I was excited about Tyrion Davis-Price. He had 14 touches yesterday. And then we get this. Adam Schefter retweets it. Now, again, I'm telling you guys, we come out with these on Tuesday. I know a lot of the big guys on YouTube, a lot of the big guys in the article space are rushing to get the waiver wire stuff done on Monday to be the first ones to hit the algorithm, get all the views, get all the love. Look, man, we sit back, we digest the information, and then we give you guys the most accurate information possible. And instead of pumping up Tyrion Davis-Price here, it sucks, man. This is a report that came out from Nick. Is that Nick Wagoner? Rookie Tyrion Davis-Price suffered a high ankle sprain in Sunday's game. Davis-Price will miss at least a few weeks, according to Coach Kyle Shanahan. So now Tyrion Davis-Price is gone. Elijah Mitchell is gone. And instead of me pumping up Tyrion Davis-Price here, we're going to pump up Jordan Mason, who doesn't even have a picture on Sleeper. He's a headless man on Sleeper. But he was, I believe, active in this game. I'm not sure. He was at least active in week 1. He should be active in this next week. He's the next man up after Jeff Wilson. And as we saw with Jeff Wilson this week, and as we'll see moving forward with San Francisco, this running back room is a revolving door. I just want bodies in this backfield. Now, there is a chance that with 2 running backs down, Shanahan goes out there, starts reaching out to teams, either trading for a guy or picking up somebody off waivers. We'll sort of see how that all shakes out. But Jordan Mason's a guy they like. They kept him on the team over a guy like Trey Sermon. I think if he was to get his shine, if he was to get some touches, it would be this week. We also just saw Jeff Wilson, yes, had like 20 touches this week, but there's going to be space in this backfield for other running backs, where we saw Tyrion Davis-Price have 14 touches here. It wouldn't shock me at all if we see Jordan Mason have like more than 8 carries this week, and if he looks good, maybe he earns more than that. And on top of that, Elijah Mitchell's not back until week 7 to 10. We still have like 4 to 5, 6 weeks of the 49ers trying to win games without Elijah Mitchell. So I think every, a live body on this roster should be rostered in fantasy. Now, after that, we have another rookie running back. We have Tyler Allgeier. And this is an ad that I had in last week's waiver wire article over on the Patreon. I said when Damian Williams came out there, first 7 of 10 snaps, he gets hurt. If he's hurt for the long term, obviously Cordell Patterson's out there between the tackles guy. Obviously, that's not Avery Williams. That would be Tyler Allgeier. And that's what we saw here. Tyler Allgeier comes in here, doesn't do anything too crazy, right? Where he only sees, 31% of the snaps, but he sees 10 touches to Patterson's 11. So Tyler Allgeier is out here commanding a ton of touches on a small amount of snaps, which means that they're kind of scheming things to Tyler Allgeier. Now, remember, this is the first game he's ever been active for. So that 31% could go up. Avery Williams isn't a guy that they want to be out there on a ton of snaps. Same thing with Caleb Huntley. I'm hoping this sort of closes up here. If you grab Tyler Allgeier, you're hoping that this, closes up and you're looking more at like a 2-man committee here. Also, something to note is Damian Williams got put on IR. So we get at least 3 more weeks of Tyler Allgeier kind of carving out a role for himself, earning a bigger role. I think he's a fun ad. This was also a bad game script for Tyler Allgeier, where the Falcons played on the road against the Rams. They were down for most of the game. I think in more favorable game scripts and a little bit more experience here, Tyler Allgeier could be somebody that's really interesting for fantasy this season. Now, another running back we'll talk about here Mark Ingram, he's owned in 27.6% of ESPN leagues. And with Kamara out this week, and then it was Mark Ingram time. It wasn't pretty. 12 touches, 6.3 fantasy points. He played on less than half of the snaps, but he did dominate the touches. He had 12 of, I believe, 20 total touches here. So he was the main guy. Mark Ingram is just a light ad here. We're probably not going to get firm news on if Kamara is playing this week. So I think the move with Mark Ingram, you add him for cheap, really cheap, probably like less than a dollar, less than a dollar, whatever's your minimum bid. You hold him. If it comes out that Kamara doesn't play, then boom, you have an RB2. Now this is also on a team where you would need RB2 help, whether it's 0 RB, hero RB. And if Kamara doesn't play, they play against the Panthers next week. It should be a more favorable matchup. Maybe Ingram looks better there. If it comes out that Kamara is going to play on Sunday, then boom, you drop Mark Ingram. You have a free bench spot to use as you please. Now, the last running backs we're going to cover here is a bunch, right? I told you guys I was going to cover 10 in this video, but there are players out there that simply shouldn't be on over 50% of leagues or leagues waiver wires, but they are. We have Jalen Warren. We have Alexander Madison. We have Khalil Herbert, Kenneth Gainwell, Jamal Williams, all available on waivers right now. I can't stress enough, if you just have like roster spots where whether you have like a backup quarterback, backup tight end, like a defense, something that you don't need on your waiver wire, and there's none of these interesting ads that I talked about before these players, go and grab these guys, especially Alexander Madison, dude. Alexander Madison should not be under 50% owned. He is the most premium handcuff in the NFL. I like Jalen Warren too. Najee Harris, yes, he played for the full game, but he had one of his lowest usage totals of his entire career. I still think that long-term, that Liz Frank injury is going to be a problem for him. Khalil Herbert had a couple of nice runs yesterday. If David Montgomery gets hurt, he's the guy. Gainwell's interesting too because he catches passes. He's on the goal line. Miles Sanders gets hurt. He becomes interesting. Then obviously Jamal Williams, who I don't know how he's under 50% owned after scoring a ton in week 1, being the clear DeAndre Swift backup. I also believe that DeAndre Swift, because of his injury, was sort of on a touch count. So Jamal Williams had a good amount of touches yesterday. Again, handcuffs are a great way where if there's nothing ambiguous on waivers, you grab a handcuff. Every Sunday is crazy. Maybe you hit a lottery ticket. The starter goes down. Boom. You have next week's hot new waiver wire ad. Now let's move over to the pass catchers here. And I wanted to talk up top. Before we get to any of the under 50% owned pass catchers, I want to talk through the over 50% owned pass catchers. Because I've been seeing a lot of the articles, a lot of the videos. Everyone's talking about guys who I think are owned in most leagues, but I'll talk about them real quick. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks. Any of these guys are on waivers in your leagues, go grab them. Garrett Wilson looks like the next Justin Jefferson. Olave looks solid himself. Dotson scoring touchdowns. He's out there on 100% of the routes. Treylon Burks hasn't played yet. You guys are going to see this once he has played, but he looked good in week 1. Hopefully he doesn't completely look awful tonight. We'll see. But he's somebody else that I like that's over 50% owned. Now, when we talk about the deeper guys, we still want to be targeting wide receivers because, yes, Drake London looked great. Garrett Wilson looked great, but that's not it, right? When you look at that 2020 class, let's say Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, you still had T. Higgins, you still had Chase Claypool, you still had Michael Pittman, but he didn't really look that good in year 1. But you do get more guys, right? Like last year, early on, it was Jamar Chase, and then you had Waddle emerge a little bit, Devonta Smith emerge a little bit, and then on the back end, you had Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're looking for our Amon-Ra St. Brown this year, where, yes, Wilson and London are those guys, but we sort of want to still keep tabs because rookie wide receivers are some of the biggest cheat codes in fantasy where they really backload their points. And a guy I really like that's under 50% owned is George Pickens. And the reason for that is, let's look at the rookie wide receiver report real quick. Let's just make, how am I gonna even go about doing this? Yeah, let's do this. So we'll leave George Pickens there in the bottom right. And when we look at the rookie report, George Pickens was second among all rookie wide receivers in routes ran in week 2 in terms of route percentage. He ran a route on 94.7% of the Steelers' dropbacks. Now, the issue is he didn't turn that into much. He's at 8.2% targets per out run, 0.36 yards per out run. He is essentially running wind sprints out there, just getting his cardio in. But it's only week 2. It's really positive sign. It's a really positive sign that he's out there, that he's playing so much. And he got a ton of buzz in camp. He got a ton of buzz in the preseason. He's someone that they love. He's a starting wide receiver at this point. It really just comes down to, do you believe that George Pickens is talented? I believe he's talented. I don't think that, as a prospect, he wasn't much worse than guys like, he was in the same tier as guys like Chris Olave, like Jahan Dotson. So I think his time is coming. If he keeps getting routes, I have to believe that he is going to have a big week sometime soon. It just comes down to when that's going to happen. Again, the opportunity is there. He just needs to start commanding volume sometime soon. Now, the next rookie wide receiver I want to talk about. Now, again, I could talk about, the Greg Dortches of the world, the Corey Davises of the world, but I'm really not interested in that low upside week to week. I also think a lot of you guys that watch my channel have stacked wide receiver rooms. I have stacked wide receiver rooms. I don't have much use for guys like Greg Dortch. So I'd rather stash these rookie wide receivers, hope to hit big later on. And another guy like that is Romeo Doubs here. Now let's make him smaller again so you guys can see the rookie report up here. And Romeo Doubs is actually really, really promising, man. Really promising. Now, you might look here and say, well, he goes from a 58.1% route participation in week 1 to 44.8%. That's not good. But that's to be expected. Allen Lazard comes back, moves everybody down the totem pole. But the important thing to note is look at Christian Watson right below him. Right below him. In week 1, Romeo Doubs is at 58%, Christian Watson 67%. He's behind Christian Watson on the depth chart there. Then we come out to yesterday or Sunday night. He's out there for 44.8% of the routes to Christian Watson's 24.1%. So he leapfrogs Watson on the depth chart. He's climbing up the depth chart, and he looks really good on a per route basis. He is on this graphic, he is one of only 4 wide receivers with a 20% target per route run or better. Olave, London, Wilson, Doubs. I am very much in on Doubs. He has Aaron Rodgers throwing him passes. He's somebody where if he's out there on waivers, please go grab him. Please go grab him. I also had Jacob Sanderson on the channel. We were drafting a team a couple weeks ago, right before kickoff. And he really opened my eyes that Romeo Doubs his prospect profile isn't anything, what is it, to sneeze at? I don't know. Is it anything to sneeze at? But he looks really good, man. For a group, you have to remember, we have to look through prospects a little bit differently when it's group of 5, right? When we're talking about small school guys, they're not going to have the freshman breakout early declare. They're not going to look like your Garrett Wilsons, your Drake Londons of the world. But when we compare them to other small school wide receivers, right? Antonio Brown was a group of 5 guy. I believe Mooney was. I believe Deontay Johnson was. He looks the part of these group of 5 wide receivers that look good in the NFL. He broke out as a true freshman on Nevada, which is huge, right? He passes that receiving yard market share threshold in year 1. A little bit of a down year in year 2. Looked great in year 3. He had more production than Deontay Johnson and Antonio Brown. And then in his final year, Mooney and Deontay Johnson both had a down year in their final year. It's kind of just how it happens in group of 5. You're not going to have this like streamlined straight up. It's a weird environment, but for what to expect from group of 5 wide receivers, that's about as clean a prospect as you're going to get outside of like the Sky Moores of the world, who was an early declare in group of 5, which is unheard of. Only like Devontae Adams, Antonio Brown have been early declares from small schools like that. Then we have Josh Palmer and Gerald Everett. They were on here last time, but they're still not getting picked up in enough leagues. Gerald Everett's at like 30%. Josh Palmer's at like 40%. Keenan Allen should probably be back either week 3 or week 4. That puts a little bit of a damper on these guys. Both guys scored about 13 PPR points in Keenan Allen's absence last Thursday. I still like Gerald Everett. He's like a top 5 tight end on the season at this point. He should be fine once Keenan Allen comes back as just a boom bust, like top 12 streamable tight end. And then you have Josh Palmer. He gets hurt by Keenan Allen, but he's still going to be on 3 wide receiver sets in a high-scoring offense, catching passes from Justin Herbert. I still think that is interesting to at least be on your bench. Then our last ad for today, our 10th ad. Well, it's more like our 20th ad after I include all the handcuffs, the rookie wide receivers that are over 50% owned. But let's talk about Logan Thomas real quick. And Logan Thomas went from an ACL recovery, playing no snaps in preseason, then going to 62% of the snaps on 55% of the routes in week 1, to 73% of the snaps and 60% of the routes in week 2. He's slowly ramping up. He had 3 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. His playing time is going to increase. I think he's a fine, streamable tight end at this point if his routes, if his snaps keep going up and he has no setbacks at this point, just as one of those fun flyer tight ends. Other names I like are Tyler Conklin. I also like Jawan Johnson. Nobody else really, though. Tight end is getting ugly here. We have like a Schultz injury. We have Kyle Pitts not doing much. We have Kittle still hurt. A lot of things going on where tight end is getting rough. I do think that Logan Thomas is a fun ad here. Now, we're almost approaching the 20-minute mark. I'm going to get out of here so you guys don't have a super long waiver wire video to get through. As always, if you like this video, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. And if you want my complete Fab Guidance article that comes out every single week on Tuesday to help you guys kill your waiver wire. Make sure to check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart, and I will see you guys in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice.
Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper song, singer, suspended, subpoena from misdemeanor.